Each year, nearly 2,000 burn patients are treated at one of the finest and most progressive burn centers in the world. This is part of Wishard Hospital, where people from not only the Midwest, but over 50 countries around the world come to receive internationally recognized care. Wishard is also home to a renowned Level 1 trauma center, one of only 2 in the entire state. Their emergency department is also by far the busiest emergency department in Indiana, with over 110,000 patient visits per year. And Wishard plays a primary role in our future medical care in its 100-year relationship with the IU School of Medicine. Over 2/3 of all Indiana-trained physicians spend time at Wishard in training. This relationship gives Wishard patients access to the medical school's leaders, sharing the latest in cutting-edge medicine, therapy, pharmacology, and nursing. More than a county hospital, Wishard plays a crucial role in the well-being and future of the citizens of Marion County, Indiana, and beyond.
Welcome to the new Wishard Hospital project. Wishard is proud to be one of the leading providers of healthcare in Indianapolis and has a long and rich history of serving our city.
Wishard touches people in the community in an enormous variety of ways. We have the largest emergency department in the entire state of Indiana. We have the most comprehensive burn unit in the state of Indiana. We have the largest ambulance service in the state of Indiana. We are the largest provider of indigent care in the entire state of Indiana.
In fact, Wishard provides about 64% of all the indigent care that is provided in the entire county. In other words, more than all other providers combined. Beginning with the smallpox epidemic in 1855, Wishard Memorial Hospital has been serving the people of Indiana for more than 150 years. But times have rapidly changed. In particular, life-saving technologies have raced ahead, and Wishard's dated facilities have been struggling to keep up.
Our buildings are so old and inefficient that modern technology was not working in them. For instance, CT scanners and MRIs are now much bigger than anything we thought about in the 1900s. We now need floor-to-floor heights of 16 feet, not 10 feet, as well as 21st century utilities to serve modern healthcare. Power, data, plumbing, and HVAC. The old Wishard was not adequate to support these newer technologies.
These are just a few of the issues we are confronted with, and studies showed us that unless we upgraded, Wishard could not continue to exist. Then who will provide all those critical services, as well as the care for the most vulnerable of our community? Our research showed we will eventually have to shut our doors forever to the people of Indiana.
From these studies, plans were developed to create a forward-thinking facility ready for the future that would continue the rich legacy of care from Indiana's oldest hospital. The new Wishard Hospital integrates the input of local experts with national and international architects and engineers into a magnificent facility with world-class design. It will become a landmark in the rich landscape of Indianapolis. Incorporating beauty and sensibility into its design, it will be a model of patient care efficiency and environmentally conscious design. A project of such beauty, sensibility, and importance that all who work on the new Wishard Hospital can take great pride in it. With an anticipated completion date of 2014, the vision has already begun to be fulfilled. Site development has begun, with utilities redistribution, parking, and support facilities.
The project we will be working on will impact the lives of thousands of people for decades to come. Contemplating a project of this magnitude, the number of people, the equipment, and supplies required might seem overwhelming. But with the dedication and hard work of thousands of people like you, we will get the job done. However, the project will be a failure if one of you is seriously hurt. One of our goals in this project is 0 injuries.
All injuries are preventable, and that is the cornerstone of our safety program. We can only reach this goal through careful pre-planning, everyone following the rules, and everyone watching out for each other. If we do these things together, we will have made the new Wishard Hospital project a safe and a healthy place for all.
Wishard Hospital has selected a construction program management team from several different companies working on the project. This team has extensive experience in the safe construction of major hospital facilities. A health, safety, and environmental plan has been developed by project management, or the PM team, that will serve as a guide to all construction managers and their contractors in the safe planning and performance of their work. You will often hear the Health, Safety, and Environmental Plan referred to as the HSE Plan. The focus of this HSE Plan is that every single day, each and every worker is actively participating in the implementation of the plan.
To accomplish this, project management requires that each activity be planned, observed, and measured following the safe work processes already established in each contractor's own HSE program. The HSE plan on this project not only meets, but often exceeds IOSHA standards, as well as all federal, state, and city authority requirements.
You need to know that the work site is adjacent to two active hospitals, the VA Hospital and Riley Hospital for Children, IU's Medical School, IUPUI, and an active research building that operates 24/7. It is important that we not interrupt our neighbors' daily operations. Noise, vibrations, and utility interruptions are all concerns to project management, and should be yours too if we are to be good neighbors. Movements into the job site will have to be controlled events. Deliveries will have to enter specific control points. That may sometimes seem inefficient, but it is necessary. Our conduct and dress should also be considerate of our neighbors. We need to always be professional, never offensive to any of our neighbors. On a campus this close, we will be on view at all times. As a result, you will be required to wear full-length pants with no low-rise or excessive bagging. Shirts must have a minimum 4-inch sleeve. All loose clothing, necklaces, bracelets, earrings, and long hair must be secured to prevent an entanglement hazard.
Also, be advised that the entire construction site, as well as the entire campus surrounding the work site, are zoned tobacco-free at all times. This includes smokeless tobacco.
True professionals not only look the part, but they act the part too. To ensure that we are all acting professionally and safely, Wishard has directed the program manager to implement a specific drug-free workplace plan which mirrors, in many respects, the Indiana Union Construction Substance Abuse Trust program. Prior to beginning work, all employees must have a valid substance abuse card capable of being verified online at www.safesite.org. Substance abuse cards from most organizations will be recognized by the Wishard Substance Abuse Prevention Program. Be aware that all workers will also be tested randomly immediately following an incident involving injury or a serious near miss, and if trained observers have reasonable suspicion of impairment due to drugs or alcohol. Periodic audits will also be performed to verify compliance. The key component of the Wishard HSE program is the Safe Plan of Action. You will often hear this simply as the SPA. The Safe Plan of Action comes with a form that will help every crew of every contractor to analyze every day's work assignment before it begins. Each crew and its foreman are required to develop the following information with respect to the safe performance of every day's tasks. List each work activity for that day, identify tools, equipment, and materials needed, identify hazards that may be encountered, identify PPE required, establish that trained and certified personnel are assigned, and identify other protective measures required for the protection of the crew and others. Once this SPA form has been completed by the crew, each member will sign, indicating his or her acceptance. The foreman will also sign, and the completed form will be conspicuously posted every day in the work area for ready review. Any change in the day's work assignment or any encounter with different unexpected conditions will necessitate a modification to the SPA before work can proceed. In addition, on the first workday of each week, each contractor will conduct a toolbox safety meeting with his crew. These informal meetings will provide a safety education, answer questions, and notify you of potential hazards and upcoming activities. Each contractor is required to designate competent persons for various tasks. The competent person shall have training, experience, and knowledge in the subject field to which he is assigned.
Safety training for specific tasks as required by Indiana OSHA, other regulatory agencies, or the contract specifications are the responsibility of your employer. You should never attempt, nor should you be directed to perform a task without first having the proper training and understanding the associated hazards and risks.
Failure to comply with these HSE requirements or to obey federal, state, and local laws may result in administrative action against the employer, the employee, or both. Violations that may have potentially severe consequences or place others in imminent danger may result in immediate removal from the project. And your company may also have a disciplinary policy, and in all cases, the more stringent policy will take effect. If there is an incident, Wishard Hospital and its occupational health clinic will treat any injured project employees in the course of their work. The Wishard Safety Program has very specific requirements for reporting incidents, injuries, and near misses.
Wishard has elected to implement an OSIP, or Owner-Controlled Insurance Program. The OSIP requires every injury, regardless of severity, to be immediately reported to your supervisor. If there is an incident, it is the supervisor's responsibility to notify
the responsible persons within the reporting structure, the program manager, and the project safety team. If the injury is not life-threatening, your supervisor will take you to Wishard Occupational Health Clinic. A medical professional will evaluate, administer treatment, or determine whether additional treatment is required. Examples of minor injuries that definitely must be reported, but would not usually warrant an emergency response include small splinters, small cuts, minor punctures, minor abrasions, or minor strains and sprains. In each of these cases, employees must go to the on-site Wishard Occupational Clinic and let the nurse evaluate and treat the injury.
For after-hour injuries and those requiring further treatment, you will need to be transported to the Wishard Emergency Department. Injured employees must not transport themselves. Only a supervisor is authorized to transport injured employees for off-site medical treatment.
If it is a serious injury, immediately call 911 and tell the operator you are located at the new Wishard construction site on 10th Street. Fractures, serious bleeding, unconsciousness, burns, head, neck, back injuries, and persons who exhibit signs and symptoms of heart problems, stroke, heat stress, or diabetic-related problems are examples of situations that warrant emergency response. If you are with an injured person, remember to consider all blood and body fluids as potentially infectious. Only personnel who are properly trained and equipped to deal with bloodborne pathogens are permitted to do so. If you accidentally come into contact with body fluids, wash your hands and all exposed surfaces of your body. Then immediately contact a member of the project safety staff. Fencing shall be erected around construction areas for the protection of students, visitors, hospital staff, and the general public. Areas where construction activities could potentially harm others working or walking nearby shall be properly barricaded and identified with conspicuously displayed and appropriate signage that includes information about the hazard. These areas may include, but are not limited to, elevated work, work near high traffic areas, crane radius, and work around excavations. Yellow caution tape is used to warn against potential hazards. Signs shall be utilized to notify others of the hazard in the area. If you must enter the area, it is the individual's responsibility to verify that it is safe to do so, and also to restore the integrity of the tape barricade. Red danger tape indicates immediate danger and that special precaution is necessary in the area. Under no circumstances should the perimeter of this area be entered without permission from the person or group who is in control of the area. Emergencies may arise during construction. Having a well thought out plan and being prepared will always be our best defense in these situations. The program manager has developed an emergency response plan. Each contractor will be assigned a geographic reporting area to which his or her employees will emergency muster for headcount. Be sure to talk to your supervisor or safety representative about the emergency action plan for your area. Personal protective equipment, or PPE, is your first line of defense in keeping safe from the hazards on a job site. Let's take a look at what PPE are required on this site. Hard hats must always be worn. They must be in good working order with no cracks or dents. The brim is to be in the forward position at all times. Safety glasses must be worn at all times. Only clear glasses are allowed inside the buildings. Employees with prescription safety glasses are required to wear ANSI-approved side shields. Gloves should always be readily available. They must be worn when handling any sharp objects, while performing any material handling duties, when handling any chemicals, or when performing demolition work. Foot protection requires sturdy work boots. Safety-toed work boots that cover the ankle are strongly recommended. No tennis or athletic shoes are allowed on site. Face shields must fit over your hard hat and must be worn in addition to your safety glasses. A face shield must be worn at all times while using the following tools: a chop saw, a cut-off saw, any type of abrasive wheel or compressed disc, grinders, powder actuated tools, jackhammers, chipping hammers, and during heavy demolition operations, and overhead work where falling debris such as rust, scale, dust, filings, etc. may result. Welding hoods must fit over your hard hat, must be worn during all welding operations, and should have a shade of 11 or 12. Employees must wear tinted face shields or goggles with a shade of 5 or 6 during all cutting torch operations. Hearing protection is required for all operations over 85 decibels. A good rule of thumb is, if you have to raise your voice to speak to the person next to you, you are above 85 decibels. High visibility vests with reflective qualities shall be worn at all times by those who could be exposed to heavy equipment or vehicular traffic. For example, if you are assigned to monitor or direct equipment movement or to signal and direct crane lifts, you must wear a safety vest.
You need to be aware that numerous construction operations will require a permit or tag before work can begin. This will help you and your employer to conduct the required SPA or Safe Plan of Action before doing the job.
You may be required to use the following permits and tags: Confined Space Entry Permit, Excavation Permit, Critical Lift Permit, Hot Work Permit, Scaffold Tag, Lockout, Tagout, and Energized Work Permit, and a Guardrail Removal Permit. Stop and contact your supervisor or safety representative before performing any permit required work activities. Excavations can be extremely dangerous if not planned and managed properly. That's because soil is so heavy. In fact, 1 cubic yard of soil weighs over a ton. So follow these rules when working around excavations. Employees entering excavations must be trained in excavation safety prior to entry. A competent person who will determine the soil classification must be present at all times. All excavations over 5 feet in depth must have a protective system in place as defined by OSHA. All excavations over 4 feet in depth require a ladder or ramp for entry. These ladders or ramps must be accessible within 25 feet of any work activities in the excavation. Your on-site supervisor will daily complete an excavation and trenching form as long as workers are entering the trench. Oftentimes, construction sites contain areas that are considered confined spaces. A confined space is defined as any area not intended for human occupancy, having limited egress or entry, and having the potential for a hazardous atmosphere. You may not enter a confined space until you have been trained in accordance with Indiana OSHA standards. Confined space entry must be coordinated with the project safety team. Stop work immediately and notify your supervisor if you encounter a confined space on your job. Prior to working on energized or moving equipment, a lockout tagout program needs to be implemented. You can get locks and tags from your supervisor. You will need to install the lock at each of the energy sources to ensure it is safe to work on. The tag will show who locked out the piece of equipment and the duration it will be de-energized. If your work involves or affects other contractors, you will need to coordinate with the construction manager to ensure the safety of everyone involved.
Fire prevention is a shared responsibility, with project management coordinating the effort. Most construction fires are the result of activities such as cutting, grinding, or welding.
To protect ourselves, fire extinguishers shall be conspicuously located, accessible, inspected, and maintained throughout the work areas. You should always know where the closest one is located. Contractors and their employees performing such work shall have a fire extinguisher in their immediate work area at all times. As construction progresses, the use of hot work permits and trained fire watches will be required. You will be notified in your safety meetings when this becomes necessary. Each and every day, construction workers are seriously injured, some fatally due to falls. That is why non-compliance with the project's fall protection specifications will be considered a serious violation, and you may be immediately removed from the project. The fall protection specifications require that craftspeople working above 6 feet are required to use fall protection equipment. This includes, but is not limited to, ironwork, scaffolds, working off ladders, and roofing. Adequate fall protection may be accomplished by having a full body harness with a shock absorbing lanyard, anchor points that can withstand a 5,000-pound force. These anchor points do not include all thread, pipe, conduit, or ceiling grid. Retractable lanyards may also be used provided they do not create a greater hazard from their swing radius. Anchor points should be overhead, as no fall should ever exceed 6 feet.
To know whether you are required to attach to an anchorage, you must first calculate the safe fall clearance distance. Knowing this will minimize the risk of striking a lower level if you were to fall.
When using a 6-foot shock-absorbing lanyard and a full body harness, add the length of the lanyard, 6 feet, to the maximum elongation of the shock absorber during deceleration, another 3.5 feet, to the average height of the worker, which is 6 feet. Then add a safety factor of another 3 feet to allow for the possibility of an improperly fitting harness. The total distance equals 18.5 feet. If you have less than 18.5 feet, your employer must provide another method of fall protection. Other ways to prevent falls above 6 feet are through the construction of safety barriers. Guardrails are an example. If using safety barriers, remember these rules. Guardrails must be constructed to withstand 200 pounds of force in any direction with less than 3 inches of deflection. Suitable materials are 2x4s or wire rope with turnbuckles. Guardrails must be constructed with a 42-inch top rail, a 21-inch mid-rail, and a 4-inch toe board. Floor openings greater than 2 inches need to be protected to prevent falls by securing to the floor a suitable covering. These covers must be prominently marked hole or cover. If a contractor finds it necessary to remove a guardrail or hole cover, the contractor's safety representative shall coordinate the removal via the completion of a guardrail removal permit. This procedure is critical in assuring that these systems maintain the required protective designs. All ladders, including step ladders, straight and extension ladders, must be of fiberglass construction and be designed for heavy-duty use, that is, a minimum Type 1A rating. The following ladder precautions need to be taken to prevent injuries or incidents. Each ladder shall be visually inspected before each use. Defective ladders must be tagged out of service and removed from the work area. When ascending or descending a ladder, you must face the ladder and use both hands, maintaining 3 points of contact at all times. Under no circumstances will employees carry tools or materials in their hands when ascending or descending a ladder. A rope or bucket shall be used for hoisting tools and material. Step ladders and extension ladders shall be used by only one person at a time. A step ladder should never be used as a straight ladder. Step ladders must be fully opened and use of the top 2 steps is prohibited. All straight and extension ladders shall extend at least 3 feet over the supporting object when used for access to an upper level. Be secured from movement at the top. Be equipped with non-skid feet and be placed at an angle so that the height to base ratio is 4:1.
And of course, all employees working from a ladder with 6 feet or more fall exposure must use personal fall protection.
Scaffolds are common work platforms on construction sites. Scaffolds are frequently identified as being associated with injuries and incidents. Therefore, employees must observe the following safe practices when planning to use scaffolding. All scaffolding must be erected and dismantled under the supervision of a competent person. Fall protection at heights greater than 6 feet is required during scaffold erection and dismantlement if suitable anchorage points exist on an adjacent or overhead structure. All working levels must be fully planked. Scaffolds less than 45 inches wide must have guardrails whenever the work platform is at 48 inches or greater above the lower level. This is accomplished by having a 42-inch handrail, a 21-inch midrail, and 4-inch toe boards. If handrails are not possible, a personal fall arrest system shall be used. An access ladder or equivalent device must be provided for all scaffolding. If the fall distance exceeds 15 feet, stair towers or internal ladder systems must be used. Remember, 3 points of contact are required when climbing the access ladder. The prohibition on carrying tools or materials in hand also applies to scaffold ladders. Scaffold tagging will be required for all scaffolds. The tagging system shall include identification for completed safe scaffolds and incomplete scaffolds. For instance, red, under erection, danger, do not use. Yellow, fall protection required. Green, safe to use. A competent person is responsible for tagging each scaffold. And again, fall protection is required when working from any scaffold above 6 feet. Employees using articulating boom lifts must be trained and qualified to operate the model lift assigned. All persons on such equipment shall wear a harness with a shock-absorbing lanyard and be secured to the manufacturer's approved attachment point before movement of the equipment. Additionally, make sure you observe the load limits for each type of equipment. Use the lift on level surfaces only. Maintain both feet on the lift's floor at all times. And lifts shall not be used to hoist or lift materials that cannot be contained within the floor of the lift platform. The Hazard Communication Standard, commonly referred to as the Right to Know law, is intended to assure that your employer has the knowledge to protect you when you are assigned to use hazardous chemicals and other materials. Material Safety Data Sheets, or MSDSs, list all the chemicals present in products, the hazards associated with using the product, and what safety measures your employer is required to take. Contact your supervisor for the location of your company's MSDS book, or ask any safety representative for assistance. Remember to review your MSDS before using any product. Follow all the requirements for personal protective equipment, and if you do not have the PPE you need, stop and get your supervisor. Some materials you may work with on site are highly flammable. There are very specific requirements spelled out in IOSHA and NFPA addressing the safe handling, use, and storage of these products. Only approved containers may be used, and they must be kept from heat and ignition sources. Be sure all required signage and labels are placed on all flammable storage cabinets, tanks, and containers. All containers storing materials must have a hazard communication sticker with information on the contents of the container. These containers must never be stored near exits or stairways, which would block emergency egress. Each contractor using hazardous materials is required to provide and maintain appropriate spill containment equipment and know how to properly use them. If a chemical is spilled or released, contact the project safety team immediately and prevent any chemical from entering waterways, drains, or sewers. Electrical connections, tools, and power cords are everywhere in construction and can be very dangerous. Properly working ground fault circuit interrupters are designed to prevent serious shock or electrocutions. That's why ground fault circuit interrupters are required at the power source anytime you use an extension cord. Extension cords shall be inspected daily prior to each use, maintained, and hung up so they will not cause tripping hazards. Each contractor shall tag or imprint the company name on each cord. And finally, cord shall be rolled up at the end of each shift. In addition to compliance with Indiana OSHA standards, the following project-specific requirements apply to compressed gas cylinders. Cylinders, including B tanks of acetylene, must be stored in an upright position and be secured with suitable wire, chain, or bar, or in properly designed carts, racks, or holders. Oxygen and acetylene cylinders, not in use, must be stored a minimum of 20 feet apart or separated by a 5-foot high, half-hour rated firewall. Valve protection caps must be in place when cylinders are stored or moved and at the end of each shift. Torch carts and cylinder racks may be lifted by aerial lifts only if they are designed for lifting. Heavy equipment will be present on site, in particular large earth-moving equipment, end loaders, mobile cranes, forklifts, and aerial lifting equipment. The most important safety device on any piece of heavy equipment is the operator. Heavy equipment shall only be operated by trained and qualified personnel. Heavy equipment must be provided with functional mirrors, horns, backup alarms, fire extinguishers, brakes, and the manufacturer's operation safety manual. This equipment must always be shut down during refueling. It shall be inspected prior to each use, and daily inspection documentation shall be maintained with the equipment. When moving heavy equipment on existing campus roadways, an escort must be provided for the equipment and must be coordinated with project management. When driving near electrical equipment, near excavations, or when the view is limited or obstructed, spotters are necessary to ensure safe operations. And if you don't have a clear line of sight, stop your equipment.
And finally, a word about housekeeping. We all know that a clean work site both looks professional and provides a safe place to work each day.
Therefore, each contractor and his or her employees are required to keep the following areas clean and free of obstructions at all times: walkways, stairways and landings, exits, and emergency egress routes. To prevent trips and slips, rolling materials such as pipe, all thread, or conduit must be picked up immediately. Scrap materials must be placed in trash or recycle containers and never allowed to remain on the deck to create a tripping hazard.
This video has covered only the highlights of the new Wishard Hospital project HSE requirements. The project managers want to remind you that it is each contractor's responsibility to know, to understand, to comply, and to train their employees regarding these requirements. This not only includes the HSE plan, but IOSHA regulations and all other applicable codes and standards. Your compliance with these safety requirements is one of the conditions to ensure continued employment on the new Wishard Hospital project.
Our intent is not to make your work more difficult, but safer. To ensure safety, we must tell you there is no place here for independent cowboys, only team members. So, if you ever encounter a situation that appears to create imminent danger, warn your team members and notify your supervisor immediately. As you learn how to integrate this safe plan of action in your daily work, you and your fellow crew members will enjoy the benefits of coming to work each day to a safe job site.
If at any time you have a safety concern or question, please do not hesitate to contact your supervisor or the safety staff. The safety staff is here as a resource for your use to ensure we all go home safely at the end of each day.
Your health is as important to us as is the health of our patients. We believe this important building project will offer rewarding jobs for everyone involved if we all focus on making the new Wishard Hospital a safe and healthful place for all.